All right, after what's felt like an eternity now, actually since the PlayStation 3 back in 2013, we have our next numbered Gran Turismo game, that being Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo 6 was indeed released after the PlayStation 4 came out, but on the PS3. We had Gran Turismo Sport, but I think a lot of people were hoping we would eventually see the next big numbered Gran Turismo, and here we are. It's out on the PS5 and the PS4, and I've enjoyed these Gran Turismo racing games as they come out, and typically I will check out different racing games as they release from a bunch of different publishers and developers. But Gran Turismo has that history right next to even Forza, which this one obviously predates the Forza series, going back to the original PlayStation. So I'm excited today to check out what Polyphony has for us. I went through, installed it, and it also had to download stuff, and they kind of had you drive around on like a fun little track while it was doing all of this. But these are going to be my initial impressions to like the first hour or so. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So this is the menu that it drops you into after that music rally start, and it was a fun game type that they have there where you drive around in a track and it kind of has music playing as you're going through gates, and then it adds time, and at the end of it, it'll show how far you drove, and you get like a trophy and all of this for it. Otherwise, though, it looks like they have some news and like patch known issues down there, all these different things. There's an online manual, a news list, but like I said, for the first time, we're going to jump into the world map. It looks like there's an opening movie here that I can't skip or anything, so I'll have to sit through it for a bit. But I also had this come with the game, this like bonus content stuff, and I was looking over it. It's a couple of pretty nice cars and then 100,000 credits. So like right away, I should at least have an alright amount of currency in the game to pick out some sort of car. So I am curious what cars they'll start me with. Typically, the way this works is you start out basically with what would be more considered a junk car. You don't have like a supercar or anything like that. And then you sort of work your way up through different license tests, and you accrue credits, and you get to buy nicer and nicer cars, have a nice collection in your garage, and then you work to upgrade and eventually compete against people online. Okay, so that opening video was like 5 or 6 minutes. It was a little while, and you can't skip it. So that's something that might annoy some people when they're going in here. They're like, all right, time to race. And then you just sort of watch this video play for minutes on end. But finally, we're into the game. And I spoke too soon. Okay, so Sarah is going to be helping us, I assume, giving us a tour of the menus that we're going to be going through a lot, and then letting us pick out our first car. So at the top, I do have 100,000 more credits than you'd normally start with when you begin the game at 20,000 credits. But why don't we very quickly talk about the big elephant in the room, and that is you can go here and then go to top up on PlayStation Store, and that leads you to microtransactions. Now, this isn't probably a shock to anyone who played Gran Turismo Sport, because you could just buy cars, basically. And they released a lot of them. They were usually like $1 or $2. I think the most expensive one maybe been like 3 or 4, something like that. But like, people are noticing that there are some cars in this game that'll cost you like $20 or $30 or something. And I mean, that's what we've seen before, and I'm not too surprised to see it here now with the licensing and all the stuff around the cars. It's a shame because it is a full-priced $70 game. And it's also a shame because Sony added these in after reviews went out. And I feel like this would have come up in reviews that were set up for embargo. And it tells me this was all probably very, very purposeful. Like, Sony has the embargo set up, people review it, and then the microtransactions go live. Kind of some Activision, EA, Ubisoft stuff. I mean, we've jumped on Activision for doing this before in certain games, so I'm here Sony kind of doing the same thing. I guess the one thing about them is they're optional, but you do still have that question, is there an artificial grind in this game because of the microtransactions and the pull to just buy credits outright and get whatever car you want? It's something that's always going to be coming up now this way. Oh, she handed me off to Andy, so now we can pick our first car. That is the nice thing, is the cars are going to range wildly. Years, makes, models, all these different things. We have PP stands for performance points, so I guess I could technically shop just with that in mind, but there's also some cars that have kind of the rarity factor to it, and because this is a used car dealership, you would have cars cycle in and out pretty much constantly. So they're trying to recommend the top 3 cars, which would make sense if I just had the 20,000 credits to use, but because we have 120,000, we can shop a little more, I guess, down the list here. Wow, 220,000 credits for this Carrera RS. It's an M3 from 89. Wow, $178,000. I'm tempted to either with the Nissan Fairlady Z or the Lancer Evo 5 from 98. I feel like the Lancer might be the better one to go with, although the Fairlady Z is pretty cheap, so you could probably upgrade it a bit. I think I'm going to go with the Lancer. Only 20,000 miles on it. It's from 1998. That's actually a pretty good pickup. All right, there we have it. Picked up the Lancer. We do have a collector level that'll be going up again. There are a lot of things that try to pull you forward in this game when it comes to sense of progression. I mean, we haven't raced around yet. We're already seeing numbers kind of pop up here. Look at the detail for like the inside of the car, even the interior, with like even the climate controls all look super detailed and everything. That's the biggest part about these racing games is I think a lot of us look at like the cars themselves when they race around the track, and we just expect them to look good, whether it's this or Forza or Project Cars or anything like that. But the amount of detail that has to go into this and everything they have to get right now versus what they had to get right back on like the PS1 or the PS2 or the original Xbox, it's just significantly more when it comes to everything that goes into it. Okay, so now we're going to the cafe. I kind of get why people were like, there's a lot of stuff you do outside of just the racing. In fact, it takes a while to get to the racing because it seems like we bought a car, then we went to the garage, check out the car, and now we're going to the cafe where apparently you meet a bunch of people and you get sort of like quests or tasks from here. The first one is get those 3 cars. Remember they were trying to push me towards them, and I ended up buying the more expensive one. I might have enough credits left to at least buy like 2 of them, but World Circuits, we can finally race in the racing game. It's been a lot of menus and setup, but here we go. We should be able to drive around in this Lancer now. It looks like in this Sunday Cup, you get a car if you place 3rd or higher. Now, I do currently have this in the frame rate mode, and that's usually how I play the different car games that have like performance or like fidelity mode. Just having that smoother experience in a racing game is, I think, way more important than being able to see maybe one side panel be a little more shiny, especially since there is like photo mode. So if you want to do that, you can pause the game and zoom in on different parts and take pictures. It's just, to me, it's well worth the frame rate and the downgrade potentially in like visual fidelity when you're actually driving around and playing the game. They do have some haptic feedback kicking in. Really, it's happening when I'm like going around the corner here and you start to skid a little bit. I'm feeling it more on the side that I'm turning away from, I guess is how I describe it. The adaptive triggers, they are loosening and tightening as you're, for example, braking or pressing the gas pedal down. They did also ask if you wanted to set it up for the right stick or if you just wanted to press buttons to accelerate or turn. So you can actually use the D-pad and like triangle and square if you want to drive around rather than typically using like the left stick and the triggers. First race done. You know, typically I'll have like the chase camera. I won't usually do like the kind of the cockpit camera like that. It seemed to work well enough, but I think what I'm going to do is go in and try to change the camera around so we can actually see the car. Okay, so there's at least one of the cars done. Pretty quick and easy, just win that race. This is kind of like the beginner menu. I assume some of the later ones will have some more difficult tasks to complete, whether it's passing a number of racers in a single lap or winning in a certain amount of time. Okay, real quick, I'm going to do this for the people, though. I'm going to go ahead and move it from frame rate over to prioritize ray tracing. It's just to be able to drive around just fine with it, but it is going to knock the frame rate down somewhat. So I guess we'll see if I get a massive difference just from the eye test initially here. Race number 2, this one with the ray tracing mode on. So not prioritizing frame rate, looking for better fidelity. I mean, yeah, it looks better. That's the thing, though. Even with frame rate, we're to a point where these games already look really good. I mean, I guess right there, there's a bit more glare coming off of their car, and it's like, would I rather have that, or would I rather have as clean of a 60 frames per second as I can get in a game like Gran Turismo, where reaction is very important? when it comes to turning and braking and all of this. I mean, it doesn't feel extremely sluggish or anything here. I thought it was just going to cut you right down to 38 frames per second. Not quite, no. So I think you could get away with either one. I just would personally gravitate towards the steadier or higher frame rate mode. Because I found the camera control button, you can just go ahead and remove like the entirety of the driver like cockpit, which makes sense if you're someone who has like a nice wheel setup. You might want to remove that because it'd be kind of strange to obviously see another person turning in front of you while you're turning. And it looks like there we go. Okay, so we have the chase cam set up now with the Lancer. I mean, it is a pretty game, and I know we kind of take that for granted with a lot of car games now, but again, it's all the details that have to go into getting these cars just right. And Polyphony, the one thing with them is they are very serious when it comes to like the small little details in the cars, but like even like the backgrounds there, the landscapes. It's a really nice looking game. If you have a really nice like OLED screen or like a really nice 4K TV, this is going to be one of those games you can really show it off with. And there's car number 2. So we have the Fit Hybrid, the XD Touring. Next I get the Aqua S. I'm curious what that roulette ticket exactly does. I don't know if that's just like maybe the thing where they spin a wheel or something, you get a certain car from it, like what we do in Forza, but I guess we'll find out here in, wow, that looks really good, like really close to the ground right there with the camera. And at the end of each race, they'll have an entire replay set up that'll just kind of play automatically. And at that point, you can capture thumbnails just like that if you'd like to, just with a press of a button where it grabs the frame. You can do different photo options there. You can pause, rewind. You can do all kinds of stuff when it comes to capturing your car sort of in action on these tracks. It's a really cool thing to have access to, like right there. And because they basically take all the sliders, move them up, and make it look as nice as possible, since it's a replay and you're just taking pictures, you'll get some pretty true to life looking visuals out of it. It is a cleaner look, I guess is how I would say it, compared to something like Forza Horizon, since that's more gritty, I guess is how I would frame it. I mean, you're driving over fields and beaches and mountaintops, and they're a very different game with Forza Horizon versus this. It'll be more interesting when the next Forza Motorsport comes out, where it is simulation and track racing like this. Race number 3 done, have that last car. And I wonder if my collector level went up as well to level 3. All right, so I picked up that roulette ticket, and it looks like it's literally just that. It's going to spin, and I guess it'll give me something. There's a car up there, so that'd be cool. Otherwise, I guess just credit. Okay, yeah, so the smallest pile of credits is what I got. That seems about right. I would say the advanced haptic feedback and the triggers are used well enough, but it's nothing like mind-blowing, I would say. I mean, you have some pretty cool things like the idea of the controller having a very slight rumble to it when you first start the car at the starting line. And that kind of gives off the idea of your engine rumbling, right, from when you start it up. But there's nothing really mind-blowing necessarily about these two, which is a shame because some of these games recently that have been coming out from Sony to use the DualSense controller have been like that next-gen feel with the controller. But I guess it does add to some immersion with the game. It just doesn't feel like, oh wow, this is one of the best cases of the DualSense. So if you're someone who likes the more arcade racing games like a Need for Speed or a Forza Horizon, this might not be your kind of racing game. If you're a fan of Project Cars or previous Gran Turismos, or even like the Forza Motorsport games where it's all track and simulation based, obviously you're going to enjoy this, and you're probably already picking this one up. I guess there's also the possibility if you're someone who wants a game on your PS5 to really showcase what it can do. I mean, this is a very good looking game as well, but you're going to want to look into this one a little bit more just to make sure it's a game you would really get into. Okay, I passed the test with a bronze, but we'll take it. We'll take it. And it looked like they had like a car at the bottom that was covered up that basically if you pass this, you'll get a car. If you get it all gold, though, it looked like they had another car. So they're at least giving you something to go back and attempt to get gold in all of these little tests, at least giving you a reason to do that. So I mean, played about an hour now, got my license, collected at least 4 cars, and then also bought one. But so far, so good with Gran Turismo 7. This was about the first hour of my time with the game, and so far, impressions are good. Some of the annoying things, obviously, are the microtransactions finding their way in, but after GT Sport, kind of expected that. And the always online component. That's kind of weird, too, considering there is basically a lifespan now on this game, since sometime in the future, I'm sure servers will be shut down, all of this, right? So unfortunate there. But for the here and now, this has been a pretty good experience when it comes to simulation racing games. You're not necessarily going to be into this if you like kind of the open-ended, crashing all over the place Forza Horizon style game where you're rolling through jungles and everything in this latest one. But if you're someone who wants a really good track simulation racing game, I mean, Gran Turismo 7, I think, is still at the top. So definitely worth checking out in that case. But let me know what you guys think about Gran Turismo 7 so far, especially if you picked it up. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.